Schools are moving away from test optional admissions, and you need to take the SAT, but you just cannot seem to get above that score. Today, we're going to go over study tips and test taking tips that can help get you from that score that you're stuck on to the 1500 club. My first tip is going to be to abuse the flag for review button. So when I took it on paper because I'm old, so I didn't have this button, and it actually would have been very helpful. What I had instead was just a paper that I would circle all the questions that I couldn't get. So the reason you want to do this is you have a very limited amount of time, okay? The clock is ticking all the time. For questions that are difficult for you, or just think in general, compared to an easy question, the odds of you getting that question right are much lower. So why are you going to spend 5 minutes trying to fight for this 1 point when in that 5 minutes you could have answered 10 easy questions and gotten all those points? Bad idea. So you're going to abuse the flag for review button. Also, a lot of times when you return to a question a second time, and you're kind of in a calm headspace because you've done, basically, literally, I would go through the entire section. If you don't immediately know the answer or know how to get the answer, just skip it, flag for review. Immediately, I would go through the entire thing. Even if you end up skipping half of them, that's totally fine. You want to get the easy ones first. Just do a first pass, get all the easy points. And you go back for round 2. When you have more time, and also now that you've calmed because you probably answered a few questions, maybe a question that you didn't really know how to approach before. For example, in the math, let's just say you couldn't figure out what equation to set up. Maybe the second time you look at it, you know because you're a little calmer now and you know you have a little more time. Rather than getting stuck on it, spending 10 minutes on it, and then having no time for the rest of it. So, that is the biggest tip. Abuse the flag for review button. Before we continue to the second tip, we're going to give a quick shout out to this week's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Acely, an online digital SAT study platform. And stop before you skip the segment because I know nobody really likes to listen to about sponsors, but after playing around with this website for a bit, I think it has a lot to offer. And I wanted to tell you about it because I think it's really unique. So just like a standard SAT textbook, Acely has a lot of practice questions. Except compared to normal textbooks, it has way more. 4,000. After you take your first diagnostic test, which is adaptive, just like the real SAT, Acely identifies the question types in both reading and math that you have problems with, allowing you to truly target areas of weakness. Acely also has a very unique study planner function. You input your current scores, target scores, and test it, and it generates a custom study plan for you integrated into the website. For busy high school students or students with ADHD, I can't think of a better tool that literally just tells you what to do. All you have to do is follow. This would absolutely be a study tool that I recommend to anyone who's deciding when to retake the SAT because it tells you exactly when you need to start studying in order to hit your target score. Another unique aspect of Acely that I really like is its tutoring function. If you started studying for the SAT, I'm sure you know this, but everybody has a specific problem type that they just can't figure out no matter how hard they try. Understanding how to get the answers to these questions is really important. Acely has an integrated AI chatbot that allows you to ask questions about the types of problems that you're struggling with, so you really learn how to approach them and improve your score. I also really appreciate how affordable Acely is compared to traditional tutoring options, which is another reason I was really excited to partner with them today. Use my code for a discount if you decide to check them out. Thank you again to Acely for sponsoring this video. Let's go on to tip number 2. Identify areas of weakness. This is a study tip, not a test-taking tip. So you want to go by subject. So let's just say, yeah, I know I'm bad at math. And within math, I'm really bad at algebra or geometry. And then within that, there are sub-question types that you also need to identify. So in algebra, I don't know, I'm good at linear, but not at quadratics, right? So that's what you're going to focus on. Geometry, I'm really bad with 3D planes. I just can't seem to get them down. Once you divide it by the question type that you can't seem to get, it allows you to focus on that question type specifically when you're doing review. This is helpful because, look, you have 800 points in each section. Let's just say 700 of them you already have, right? Because you're really smart and you're fighting for that last 50. That last 50 is going to come from places that you're bad at. It's not going to come from the places you've already gotten with the 700. You need to focus on what you're bad at. This can be kind of intimidating because you have to confront what is making you score so low. And it's probably intimidating because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit avoidant when I have to do things that I'm bad at. Because it's like, oh my goodness, I have to confront this thing. I'm so bad at it. I'm never going to get good at it. It's going to stress me out, so I'm just not going to focus on it. That is the worst thing you could do. You need to wake up. You need to face the music. Ignoring it is not going to make you better at it. Don't be like me. Be better. I really mean this. This is a life tip for everything. There's an assignment. I'm procrastinating right now by making this video. I should probably get around to doing that because it's really important. And it's from a professor that will be very important to my career. And yet here I am. So do as I say and not as I do. Do not compare yourself with classmates before or during the test. So during the test is a big one, but so is before. People are going to be talking about how much they're studying. Oh, I'm getting so little sleep. Oh, I stayed up until 5 a.m. last night. Oh, wow. Okay, good for you. good for you, congratulations. I don't want to be doing that. Really don't want to be doing that. You need to be getting a lot of sleep. I mean, I'm not going to mention that here because that's kind of obvious, but yeah, you need to be getting sleep. You need to be taking care of yourself. Do not compare yourself with classmates before. People might also be saying, oh, on my practice test, I got a 1570. I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. People lie, okay? People lie all the time. Don't be intimidated by the competition. During the test too, don't be looking around. Okay, you need your eyes on the screen. Not compare yourself during the test to other people taking the tests. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about anybody's pacing. Don't worry about how nervous or confident people seem. That doesn't affect you. Here are some specific question subject type advice for reading. Always try to locate the passage the question is talking about. Unless it's asking a general summary question, it's going to be referring to a specific portion that they're testing your ability to read. Find that portion. You can do this with normal questions. If it asks about, I don't know, you've just read a passage about yen, right? The history of the Japanese yen, and it asks a question about, the type of metal it was made out of. You can remember, oh yeah, in paragraph 3, they talked about that. It might be worth it for you to write 1 or 2 words kind of on your scratch paper about what each paragraph is about so that you can kind of remember. You don't need to, that's what I did, but that's because my memory is terrible. But just try to keep a general track of what each paragraph is about and just try to remember the general flow of the argument. So that way when you have a question, you kind of know where it is. An easy money way to do this is when you have evidence questions. It'll ask you a question and then it'll have a corollary question that's like, well, how do you know the answer to that? Oh, these questions are the best. These questions can be kind of tricky, but look, it means that the first question is answered if you can answer the second one. So all you have to do is go look at the lines that it asks you, hey, is this evidence? Go look at the lines that it asks you about, read them, and figure out which one answers the question. It's so easy. Cash money. For math, maximize exposure to different equation and question types. When it comes to equations, I just mean like geometry. Know how to handle as many as you can. For question types, I mean like word problems. For word problems, the way to tackle them is, it's just setting up an equation in words. Figure out what that equation is and solve it. It can be tricky to figure out what equations and what variables to be using, but once you figure that out, you've answered your question and then you just solve, and it's quite straightforward from there. So this is what I mean when I say exposure to different equation and question types. The more types of word problems you can read, you can figure out, when these two things are posited as equal, these are the variables that are affected. Or, if it's rate, I have to put the time here and put the speed here, and that's what rate is. So just exposure to different types of questions, both in word problems, just in general, because for other questions, you're still going to have to deal with variables, even if you're not dealing with equations in the same way, because word problems are literally just going to be like x is equal to y over 3, and then you solve. For others, you'll just have to kind of figure out let's see, there's x and then there's y, and it's asking me about z, which is a relationship of these two, so, what do I do with that? So that might not be a straightforward equation, but you will still have to most likely set something up and solve it. So try to figure out, and a lot of it's going to be variables, so just try to figure out. Practice tests. Sit for as many practice tests as possible. You want to mimic the timing of the real test, so you want to know where you get stuck. Mimicking the real timing is a big deal. The other thing too is that you don't want to feel stressed on the day of. So if you're able to do a practice test in 80% of the time that you're given, that means that 20% of your time can be used for either taking a break, low-key, because it's a long time to be focusing for, right? So, it might be nice to take a break, or reviewing work. Knowing that you have that 20% of your time to just chill out and go over your work quite carefully can really help you feel calm before the test. Because at the end of the day, it's all a mind game. I mean this. If you walk in confident, if you walk in and you think that you can get a good score, you will get a good score. Or at least you will do better than you would have if you didn't think you could get that score. Your body and your mind is going to react to what you're thinking. It's going to react to the way you talk to yourself. So don't talk to yourself in a negative way. Talk to yourself in a positive way. This is not manifesting or whatever. I think that's more of a millennial thing. I don't know if people your age talk about that. This is not manifesting. This is just your brain does respond to the way you view yourself. Make sure it thinks that when you go in, you're going to do really well, because you will. And if you don't, there are plenty of colleges that you can go to that don't require super high SAT scores. This is not the end of the world either way. Always stay tethered to reality. Okay, I'll see you all next time.